Every single person listening or watching, you are an example to somebody. So I could keep going to the example of the burn because I do think of that often to get me through it. But I also remind myself, I'm the example for somebody. And so I don't have a choice. I've now built an environment because of my work that I am the example for somebody of what discipline looks like. So I can't be undisciplined. If I'm going to be an example and talk to athletes about discipline, I better get into different shape. I better work out differently. You have to remember somebody's eyes are watching you. You better not walk in looking like you just pounded a bag of donuts. You better walk in there like you've got discipline or they're not going to listen. And one of the things that you get when we coach together, you're going to get challenged, just like I challenge myself, because otherwise we're not going to grow. And so this isn't Pollyanna. It's helping people connect to what drives them, understand the disciplines and the standards, and then helping move them to the opportunity to choose those behavior standards and mindsets every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I am your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's podcast, we talk about standards. Today, I have the opportunity of interviewing one of the world's experts and go-to coaches for peak performance. He has actually led elite athletes and business leaders to achieve their next level. How? By setting standards. As we are approaching the new year and we set out to develop a new path for ourselves, what new standards will allow us to become our best? How do we set those standards? What framework can we use to apply these standards so that we get peak performance results day in and day out? Today's conversation is going to give you those tools for you to reach your next level. Now, before we get into the podcast, let me welcome everybody that is new to the place where thought leaders, world experts in the fields of longevity, human potential, human performance get together to give you the tools, the insights for you to achieve your next best. Lots of free resources by becoming a listener on this show. Number one, get a copy of my book, Thrive State, which is the exact framework to achieve human performance and longevity. Go to thrivestatebook.com to pick up a copy or get some free resources. Go to thrivestatestarter.com to get some practices on how I get into my Thrive State day in and day out, how I have the framework for peak performance, for longevity, all that for free in a bundle when you go to thrivestatestarter.com. And if you like a journal that you would like to go through and start categorizing and start auditing your life in areas that will bring you more health, more happiness, more potential in 2025, go to mythrivestate.com/toolkit and receive the toolkit so that you can get to your Thrive State in 2025. Now, this is a conversation that I actually had in my Thrive State Summit that I had earlier this year, where I had experts in mental and emotional health and performance give us the tools and tactics to achieve our next level. In the summit, I interviewed Dave Asprey, Vishen Lakhiani, Bruce Lipton, Josh Axe, Dr. William Lee, so many more people that have really shared their wisdom and knowledge to improve our mental and emotional performance. Ben Newman, the person that you'll hear from in a moment, was one of those guests. In fact, if you would like access to the summit, you can get all the summit episodes as well as additional digital content by going to mythrivestate.com/pro. So without further ado, I want you to learn how to create an unshakable mindset, to set a new standard for yourself in 2025. So please enjoy this conversation with myself and Ben Newman. Welcome back to another session of the Thrive State Summit. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. Here with me today is a new friend that I met from my friend and mentor, Dave Meltzer. His name, Ben Newman, a renowned speaker, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the nation's top continual peak performance coach and the #1 Wall Street Journal bestselling author. He's worked with Fortune 500 companies, business leaders, sales organizations, professional and collegiate athletes, and Olympians in every major sport. His clients include Alabama football, Anheuser-Busch, AstraZeneca, Army of the United States, the Air Force, American Family Insurance, and so many more. Those were just the letter A's. He's also the author of the newly released book, The Standard. And in it, you're going to learn about what it means to live a standard-based life. And as he reveals, there's more than 20 factors you must consider when building effective standards. The Standard is a must-read for anyone who wants to be the best versions of themselves, and it utilizes time-tested strategies to create challenging plans and processes that will transform your life forever. Ben Newman, welcome to the summit.
Dr. V, great to see you again. It was great to be able to meet in person in Los Angeles, but also great to be here today on the summit and with all your listeners and everybody that's participating.
I want to dive into the standards in a little bit, but the first time I met you, I remember you with two of your children. Your son and daughter came with you to see daddy at work. And that is something that was just so beautiful because I saw how they saw you on screen and there was a sense of pride that they had looking at their father. Can you talk a little bit about just what it takes to become a good parent and to instill mental toughness and resilience in your children?
First off, you're assuming that they listen to me when it comes to mental toughness and resilience. They actually listen to their mother for those things. When this is what you do for a career, those lessons come from mom, and she is one tough son of a gun herself and an amazing example of what it means to lead. And so it's a blessing to have an amazing partner like my wife, Amy. And every day you just try to be your best. And I can promise you, I mess up as a father all the time. I mess up as a husband all the time. And one of the things that I fight to do is just be the best I can be. And I hope in those moments, whether it's something where it's seen on camera or stuff within our home, that our children always know that I'm just trying to be the best I can be one day at a time.
Oh, that's such a beautiful thing. Now, one of the things that I recently mentioned to you as we started the interview, there's a reel I saw of yours back in 2011, and you sure do look different, but you did mention in that reel losing your mother at the age of 7. But even back then, you had this mindset of how beautiful that experience was. Can you walk us through how you developed that particular mindset? And was that developed at that early age to see her life as being something beautiful, or was that something you cultivated over time?
Well, it's always, you have a level of awareness of how meaningful your mother is and the pain that you go through that sort of a loss.
Yeah.
Over time, you learn to develop and create even more awareness or intentionality around the examples that she left and how I can use that and apply that in my life. You don't necessarily understand that as a 7-year-old boy. Is now I can understand that as a 44-year-old man. My mother was divorced when my parents were 6 months old, never knew them together, and diagnosed with a rare muscle disease called amyloidosis in 1983. And certainly I know you would know this, many people wouldn't. Amyloidosis, we all have it in the makeup of our muscles. If you have an excess, you have amyloidosis. Amyloidosis ended up taking her life 11 days before my 8th birthday. And still today, there's no cure. Yet my mother had this positive mental attitude. Even though we would have 24-hour nursing care in our house, her last year living, she'd come to the dinner table with an IV stand to ask me how my day was at school. And what her example has done for me in my life is to give me perspective of what a real bad day is. And I don't really have many. Now, do I have challenge, adversity, and things I have to go through? Absolutely. But my mother passed away at 38. I'm now a 44-year-old man, which means I've been given 6 extra days that my mother never got. And my goal every single day is to be the best that I can be, to own the opportunity every single one of those days and to not waste any of them, but also encourage others to connect to what I call their burn. And that's a fire inside of you that ignites your why and your purpose, that causes you to show up when you don't want to, and especially after you win. So my burn is my mother. I know that you have one. I know everybody listening, you have a burn, and I encourage you, find that burn that gives you perspective so that you don't waste your days.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because in the process of me rediscovering my next path, the burn wasn't very apparent to me, but it was following the clues of the things that lit me up a little bit more, the things that potentially I quieted down because my parents, teachers, coaches said that I ought to be a certain way. And I didn't listen to maybe the fire that was there. And it was a discovery process. Do you find that for some people, it's very easy to find their burn. And do you have like steps yourself that allows people to find that passion and purpose within them?
Yeah, so I've been doing, and let me just speak to this for a moment. This concept of a burn is very different than the way most coaches and speakers articulate this. And I think it's something that most coaches and speakers, quite frankly, they miss. And it's one of the reasons why we started the Burn podcast, which we're now in year 5, is because over 18 years of doing this, I didn't just start this kind of work. I've been doing this for 18 years. I found that the highest performers in sports and in business have this burn that's deeper than the why and purpose that ignites it. And it shows up in different formats. So to answer your question, that burn, maybe for some, it's pain that they've went through, similar to mine, gives me perspective. I can't waste a day when I reframe and think about what I've been through, because what I'm currently going through pales in comparison to that. Other people may say, my parents made such a tremendous sacrifice, or somebody made sacrifice for me to have my opportunity. I won't waste it. Or some individuals may say, I'm currently making a sacrifice for somebody. And when I think of the sacrifice I'm making, or the little eyes that are watching me, I cannot waste a day. And if we can't get to the burn through those avenues, I love asking the question, grab your future and bring it to today. So if somebody's listening saying, okay, the perspective or struggle doesn't hit me, the sacrifice doesn't hit me, grab your future and bring it to today. And then we have to identify, what are the things that you really want? And what are the deep-rooted reasons why? And what are you willing to fight for to get those things? And it becomes a process of asking questions to really uncover what that burn is. And then once you connect to it, you start showing up differently.
This summit is really, surrounded about mental health, and people have a close friend take his own life last year. We know that people have struggled to find work after the pandemic. We know that AI is like shifting the way the workscape is, and people are also struggling to find their jobs. We know writers are on strike and actors are as well. What do you make of the mental health and the stresses people are going through? And what are the resources you draw upon when you're hit with some change, pressure, or challenge that has come your way that now that's on your table?
First off, I think one of the most important things we can do is actually control our mindset, control your environment and control your mindset. And you nailed it. There's so much going on in the world, even add the fears, the doubts, the uncertainties, the politics, the media, all of it. We can become uncertain. What's my path? What's my mindset for the day? So a simple adjustment you can make on my cell phone. I remember when Ed Milet had me on his podcast, my dear friend Ed Milet, Ed said to me, he's got to tell him about your phone. And I'm like, all right, we can talk about my phone. And it seems like such a simple thing. But he says, what's the name on your alarm? Most people don't know you can name your alarm. So when my phone goes off, I actually keep it in the bathroom. So that means I have to get up out of bed. I don't leave it next to me. And then it actually has a name. It says Janet Fishman Newman Legacy. So what do you think the odds are if I look at my phone and it says Janet Fishman Newman Legacy? That's my burn. And I say, I'm going to fight today. You think I'm hitting the snooze button? Not a chance. And so what I've done is I built an environment where I control my mindset. And if I connect to what I want to fight for, as opposed to allowing circumstance to control my mindset or the pain of yesterday or my perceived pain of today, and we allow those circumstances to dictate or to create feelings that prevent action, that's going to control your mindset and it's going to control your disciplines. And so I encourage you to start there. The second piece is communication. One of the biggest fallacies is people think that these professional athletes, they're perfect and nothing gets in their way. I've worked with Hall of Famers. I've worked with players on the last 6 Super Bowl championship teams, Pro Bowl, you name it, Olympic champions. They all have struggles. They're human beings. And so whether it's an athlete or a business professional, I encourage people, talk about your pain, whether it be a coach, whether it be a counselor, whether it be a friend. Talk about your pain. Don't try to go through it alone, and it'll make your life and your challenges of battling adversity that much easier.
Oh, yeah. Community, communication, and having that support is so important. Now, let's dive a little bit into your book, The Standard. Why did you release that? And what do standards do in terms of helping us transform our lives and our mental resilience?
So the reason why I wrote the standard is because the standard had not been written, and which was mind blowing to me. When I came up with the idea, I'm like, I need to write the book, The Standard. And so you get on the internet and you Google The Standard and you're thinking, oh my God, 6 people are going to have written this book. Nobody had written the book. Yet you can turn on a national championship game. A coach holds up the trophy. How did you do it? A standard. Or a woman running her business in her article. We live to the standard, but nobody has explained what it means. And so we actually break down what the standard means, how it shows up in people's lives, and the choice that you have to live to those standards, and then examples and a process that with 2 minutes a day will change the intentional focus and how you show up every day and help you live to the standard in your lives.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We had a conversation. You were telling me about the 4 Ps, the problem, planning, performance, and the payoff. Can you break that down a little bit more on how to make those standards work for us?
Absolutely. So first off, once again, most coaches that do the work that I do, they want it to be this Pollyanna world. Oh, Dr. V, everything's going to be just perfect. It's going to be fine. Just wake up and manifest your greatness and everything will be great. We don't ride around on unicorns and we don't slide down rainbows. You're either in the middle of a problem right now, you're working your way through a problem, you just got out of a problem, there's a problem coming your way, or you just won. And so I actually encourage people to identify, where are you or what's going to keep you? Identify that problem to start your day. So let's say, because this is the one that intrigues people, what do you mean I just won? That's the biggest problem that holds people back from continual peak performance. They show up differently after they win. It's one of the biggest problems. When they win, they take a break. And so what this process does is it allows you to say, okay, I can't stop my momentum. We're winning. I can't allow this to be a problem. So then you plan and you say, what's causing me to win? So the first P is the problem. Second P is the planning. So I say, okay, these 3 things, I've been doing them every day and they're causing momentum. They're causing me to win. So now I say, I've identified what they are. Most people, they identify the problem, they identify the plan, and they forget the most important piece. They forget to take action. And without the action, you're right back to the problem, and it actually exacerbates the problem. Being in this type of a summit with you wasn't enough for me. So we're actually going to give everybody, I know we're going to talk about it, the Mental Toughness Playbook, your Mental Toughness Playbook. It's had over 1 million downloads. It's the 6 mental training tools I use in my coaching. And the performance P, we actually teach what I call a prize fighter day. So it actually takes that planning piece and helps you design, what does it look like for me to win? Because even though people see all these championship rings behind me and many people read about the work that I've done with businesses to help them scale their businesses, grow their businesses, get into the Fortune 100s, Fortune 10s, people say that's winning. So that's not winning. Winning is your ability to look yourself in the mirror one day at a time and say, today I gave it my very best by controlling your behaviors, your disciplines, and following through with them. And when you do that and you stack those days on top of each other, the byproduct is winning at very high levels. And we control our performance through our disciplines and our choices every day. That's what the performance P is, which then leads to the payoff. And Dr. V, this is the one that is so important. Like, it drives me crazy. The payoff doesn't mean I go celebrate because I got a result. The payoff is actually confirmation that what you're doing is working. So if you're receiving confirmation that the process is working, I'm just going to share with you, keep attacking the process. One day at a time. Take 2 minutes. Identify the problem. Design it. Plan it. Follow through with the action. And when you get the payoff, repeat the cycle. Because what many people do is they get seduced by success when they win. And they prevent themselves from winning more. And so I just encourage everybody, don't be seduced by success. Understand that a daily process, you can't trust the process, you have to attack it, will cause you to drive continual peak performance. And these 4 Ps are the way. It literally comes from research of studying some of the highest performers over the last 18 years.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health,
happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves, and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed. And please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
So I'm going to question one additional P right now. And I would probably say your 4P process is probably going to be the killer of this 1P, which is procrastination. Worked with Fortune 10 companies, Olympians, champions of all sorts. And I don't know if that's in their DNA, but we do have people that are feeling stuck to take that first move or action. Why do you think some people fail to take action on the life that they want to build?
Because they don't connect to their burn.
Mm.
And as simple as that sounds, I want somebody to think, forget my mother's story. My mother's story is powerful, but nobody's going to show up because of my mother's story in their life. So let's take somebody listening right now whose mother is living, she's healthy, but she fought cancer when they were 13 years old. When you think back to your mom's fight, when you think back to her pain, and when you think of the positive things that she said, and you think of the way that she said, I will fight for you and your sister. And when you think of moments like that, why in the world would you choose to procrastinate? The problem is most people, as we talked about earlier, they don't control their thinking to say, I'm going to remember my mom, and my mom's mindset will always be my fuel. Instead, they allow their feelings to dictate how they show up, or they listen to the media that only says what they want you to hear. And then the media says, you should think this way. Oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. No, it's not. Or politics controls your thinking. And so I encourage you, try connecting to that burn. Try for 30 days. There's a 30-day burn challenge inside your mental toughness playbook. You try that for 30 days and tell me it doesn't change your life, silence your self-talk, and drive more discipline. That's what it does.
Talk about feelings and how they come up. And different people talk about feelings differently in terms of how to acknowledge them, or at least talk about them. But sometimes it's placing standards over those feelings. So what would you say for somebody that has these uncomfortable feelings show up? Is it disregard them altogether? Or how does one process those feelings but still take action on what is truly aligned to that burn in them?
I like to break things down, as many people have noticed, to very simple action steps, because I believe these things can be simple if you drive tremendous levels of discipline to them. And so for me, I've said for years, standard over feelings. That lesson, standard over feelings, is the reason why Coach Saban at Alabama, the greatest football coach of all time, kept me around for 5 years and 2 national championships. It's why I've been with Coach Kleiman at Kansas State and why we won a Big 12 championship last year. I've been with him for 9 years and national championships at North Dakota State before he came to Kansas State. Standard over feelings. Don't allow your feelings to dictate how you show up.
Mm.
You have to live to the standard one day at a time. I'm not saying don't have feelings. I cry when I watch Extreme Home Makeovers. I got plenty of feelings, but I'm not going to allow my feelings to change my behaviors. I'm not going to allow the fact that I won yesterday to cause me to not show up today. And I'm also not going to allow the rejection that I faced yesterday to keep me from doing what I said I was going to do today. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care if you're a doctor. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you're in finance. Everybody's in sales. So you better expect rejection in life. Nobody goes through life without rejection or adversity. So if you know that it's coming, you might as well embrace it and get to attacking the next day. And that's where standard over feelings comes into play.
Mm. So good. The type of people that you work with, these elite performers, when they get into slumps, what would you say is going through their minds when they get into places where their performance is off? What are some of the factors that are in place that gets them to not be able to tap back into what they were doing before? What are some of those mental roadblocks that they encounter?
So oftentimes people, they forget who they are, right? So a lot of times for you, if you're struggling with something, if I was doing coaching work with you and you're going through that, or if I'm going through that, and full disclosure, I still have two coaches. I'm reading books every day. I'm not immune from these problems and issues. I'm still trying to figure it out and get better every day. If you're dealing with an issue, sometimes you forget how great you are. And we get so caught up in psychology, there's a principle called expectancy theory. That which you focus on expands. So if something negative happens to us, oftentimes that negative thinking starts to expand because we focus on the negative. You forget who you are. You think that negativity is just what's happening to you and you can't fight through it. Yet you forget that the moments where you've sought the positive solutions or positive action steps, that's when you have won and you have won big. So oftentimes it's an easy reminder. And sometimes you'll get, do you know who you are? Like, you're the same person that did this. You, my friend, are the same young lady who won the 200 meters at the Olympics 4 years ago. That's who you are. You're an Olympic champion. And then they smile a little bit. And then you can go back to, why did you win the Olympics? What made you a champion? I worked hard every day. I did X. I controlled my nutrition. How are you controlling those factors today? Gosh, coach, I can't believe that you said that. Like, I'm a little bit off lately. You know what? Let's not trip on anything that's behind us. But starting right now, let's get back to focusing on nutrition. Let's get back to focusing on max effort when you get into the gym. Let's get back to focusing on the things you can control, and let's control your mindset right here. You can't forget who you are. And those types of conversations and reminders is what gets people back on the path. I come off the path, you come off the path, everybody listening comes off the path. And I don't care if any of these amazing speakers that Dr. Vuu has put together for this opportunity, I'm telling you right now, they're lying to you if they say that they're immune to these problems. Dr. V knew what he was doing when he put this together.
No, absolutely. What are some of the things that you draw on? I think everybody has their different type of recipe for emotional resilience. But are there some things, whether it's meditation, time with your family, nature, what are those things that allow you, when those emotions come up, for you to be able to gain control, wake up, that's not the true reality, and for you to really live to the standards that you set for yourself?
I would share this. Every single person listening or watching, you are an example to somebody. So I could keep going to the example of the burn because I do think of that often to get me through it. But I also remind myself, I'm the example for somebody. And so I don't have a choice. I've now built an environment because of my work that I am the example for somebody of what discipline looks like. So I can't be undisciplined. One of the reasons why you said you looked at some old video reels of me, you're going to have everybody Googling the internet back in 2011. I was built differently. One of the reasons why I was built differently, 2011 was when I first started working with athletes. And I recognized very quickly, if I'm going to be an example and talk to athletes about discipline, I better get into different shape. I better work out differently. It's why I've now worked out for over 4 straight years without a day off. 4 straight years, not a single day off. And I'm not talking about 10 push-ups in a day. I do this crazy workout that takes about 50 minutes, 10 exercises. Most people can't do it once, and I've done it for over 4 straight years. I don't share that to impress you, but I've realized that somebody's eyes are watching me. You have to remember, somebody's eyes are watching you. Maybe it's little eyes in your home, like my eyes watch my mom. Maybe you're a mentor to somebody at work. Maybe you're a coach or a speaker that's walking in with a college football team or a college volleyball team or a college softball team. And those athletes are looking at you. You better not walk in looking like you just pounded a bag of donuts. You better walk in there like you've got discipline, or they're not going to listen to you.
So,
This is one of those moments I start getting fiery. I'm not for everybody. And one of the things that you get when we coach together, you're going to get challenged, just like I challenge myself, because otherwise we're not going to grow. And so this isn't Pollyanna. It's helping people connect to what drives them, understand the disciplines and the standards, and then helping move them to the opportunity to choose those behavior standards and mindsets every day.
I would imagine that people's standards can grow and evolve, but when they're there to set the very first standards, how do you teach one? If I was your coaching client and it's one of our first coaching sessions and you're like, Dr. V, what are your standards? I'm like, I don't have any yet, but how do I develop it? What is your process of walking through somebody develop their standards for the first time?
So Dr. Max Weber, spelled Weber, W-E-B-E-R, was one of the fathers of sociology. And he teaches us the difference between power and authority. Power is when you force or coerce somebody to do your will. Authority is when you empower or inspire somebody to choose what you would want them to choose or what you know they should choose. Through my research of Dr. Weber, I developed a strategy I call questions over statements. So if you're struggling, I could point and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. That isn't going to work.
Right.
Instead, I choose to ask questions over statements. And I ask questions to say, let's talk about the last time that you won. Why did you win? Or let's talk about your health. When you felt that you were performing at your highest level and you felt great physically, you had great energy. Why? Dr. V, why did you have that energy? And you may say, I was working out every day. I was breaking a sweat every day. I was doing my recovery. I was eating right. Okay. Once again, like that example I gave earlier, how are you doing with those things now on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm a 4. Okay. Let's not trip on anything that's behind you. What do you need to do moving forward? And part of the standards is not, I need to be perfect. Standards is I need to do a better job of controlling my disciplines and the decisions that I make.
What might some of them look like in terms of standards? Or can you list out maybe a couple of standards that you find athletes are using? Is it show up every day, do what you say you were going to do?
Let's actually use a high-performing business professional, right? I work with some of the highest performing business professionals in the world and have had the blessing of doing that. Somebody may say, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. That might be their motto. So they say, you know what? If I prepare my food Mondays through Fridays, because that's my standard to live a healthy life, and Saturday's my cheat day, when everybody goes out to lunch on a Wednesday, I stay back and I eat my pre-prepared meal. If that's your standard, then you have to choose to live to your standard. It has to get to the point, if you really want to understand your highest level of performance, that the opposite of the standard has to become unacceptable to you. Because the moment we start cheating, we become sloppy in other areas. So it could be food. It could be a workout. It could be as simple as I will be present and focused when I say goodbye to my wife and give her a kiss before I leave the door. We all are there, right? My husband, my wife, my significant other. I'm running out of the house. I'm just too busy. Babe, goodbye. I'll see you later. Slow down. Look her in the eyes. Give her a kiss and say, babe, have an amazing day. I can't wait to see you tonight. That could become one of your standards. Your standard in business. If you're in sales, I teach a principle called points of contact. This is all in your mental toughness playbook, all different examples. A point of contact is a text message, an email, a phone call. It's your voice to the world. I'm open for business. So if I'm working with a financial advisor, that financial advisor, if he has 0 points of contact in a day, Dr. V, what's the expectation he's going to open up opportunity for business?
Right there where your hand is, 0.
0. It's not happening. Now, if I say, what do your best days look like? And we reverse engineer them and you say it's 20 POCs, then that's your standard. It's 20 POCs. Then there's what I call the unrequired standard. The unrequired, and this is really where the champions separate themselves in business and in sports. We know what's required. What's required is those 20 POCs. So the unrequired standard, that's really the difference that champions understand. And so the unrequired are the little things that other individuals can't see, they don't want to do. They're not even going to talk about that the highest performers choose to make a priority. So if you think of those 20 POCs, the unrequired is doing an extra 2, an extra 10%. Why is that significant? Because you cannot do the unrequired until you've done what's required of you. Did it freeze again? So the unrequired is the little bit extra, and you cannot do the unrequired until you've done what's required of you. So that's the psychology. If you believe in doing the unrequired, which is what champions do, you must honor the commitment of following through with those disciplines. That's the 20, that's standard. Then you add the unrequired, and then you see a multiplier in terms of your pipeline and opportunities for continued growth.
Wow. I love how you simplified it, have a formula for action for people to use. And I really hope that people start applying the standard to their own life. I want to thank you for everything that you've contributed in terms of the summit, the growth and the standard you set upon yourself. How do people find out more about you and the work that you do, Ben?
So at Continued Fight is social media. You'll actually get me. I'm the one who's on there interacting. Sometimes our team may get on there and drop a video that they've produced. It's me sharing content and engaging. And then bennewman.net is our website.
Beautiful. Again, brother, I thank you for the generosity of your gifts. I know the audience appreciates this as well. I love you and thank you, brother.
Dr. V, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I hope you enjoy that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you subscribe to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breathwork, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.